Okay, fellas, hope we're all ready for today. John, welcome back from your holiday.
I found a leprechaun.
Um, cool story, bro. Right, glasses going on. Serious time. I want 6 points from these next two games in the Champions League, okay? Two games at home, teams who are not Manchester City. I want us to finally get out of a group in the competition. We actually start the European season now, okay? So a big couple of games coming ahead, boys, okay?
Do you want to see a photo of him?
Hello everyone and welcome to episode number 100 of Husavik Heroes here on Shaun Does FM. I hope you are doing well, and coming up in today's episode we get stuck right in to the Champions League group stage for the 2029-2030 season. We have two home games. We want to win them both. First off, taking on RB Leipzig, and off the back of that we do take on Dynamo Moscow. So if you are looking forward to today's episode, then do remember to go down below, leave a thumbs up on the video, and if you haven't done so already and are enjoying this series here on the channel, also remember to hit that subscribe button and turn that notification bell on as well. It is greatly appreciated. But here is what the group looks like off the back of our first game in yesterday's episode. If you missed that one, which also had the Molke-Bikeren final in it, I will leave a link to that over in the top right corner. But we do want two wins from today's episode. We take on Leipzig, followed by Dynamo Moscow. Those two teams did draw in the first match week, so I do feel like they are teams we could potentially beat, especially at home. Otherwise, we might be in a little bit of trouble trying to get out into the Champions League knockouts for the first time in this save. But we have played a few domestic games off the back of that Molke-Bikeren final in yesterday's episode, already having wrapped up the quadruple, but just finishing off the league season. And thankfully, we come into this one off the back of 3 straight wins. A 3-1 win at home against Fram Reykjavik, followed by a 2-0 win away from home against Akranes, and then a 4-1 win on the final day of the season, also away against HK. Fabio Mariano picking up 4 goals to end the season there. He ended up being the top goal scorer for the league with 21 goals, and we end up on 63 points, very, very comfortably winning the domestic league. Yet again, just one game taking place right at the moment as we are about to kick off this first game of today's episode against RB Leipzig. But the European qualification places are already locked in. Yet again, HK are going to be our fellow team in the Champions League qualifiers for next season. Akranes will be the team in that good third qualifying round spot in the Europa League. Volsungur, of course, the other team in Europe alongside us this season down in the Conference League. They will be just in Conference League qualifiers next season, so a slight downgrade from what they did last season when finishing third, and Keflavik will be the other team in Conference League qualifying for us at the start of the next European season. But a very good domestic season for us, just that one loss which did taint our undefeated season there against Breidablik, but otherwise winning the rest of our 22 games in the league. And we come into this one with most of our first team available, obviously, as you would have been able to tell by the intro, fresh off the back of a leprechaun sighting. John Matthews is back after his holiday. The only injury/suspension concern we do have for the first game of today's episode against Leipzig is that Alejandro Meza, off the back of the red card he did pick up against Manchester City, is suspended. So we are going to have to change things up just a little bit at left back for this one. Jorge in slightly better form than Chatzakis at the moment and throughout the season. So he gets the starting spot there ahead of Chatzakis. Our bench very, very similar to what it has been for the Champions League qualifiers and campaign so far. So just that one change. John Matthews back at right back, and hopefully we can pick up 2 wins in today's episode. We'll have a quick look at the opposition in today's episode. First off, it is going to be RB Leipzig, 4.5-star reputation club out of Germany, currently third in the Bundesliga. They're usually up there in and around Dortmund and Bayern Munich. Of course, they've got a few good players on their books, the likes of Hudson, Odoi, Soboslai, Caligari at right back, a player we're somewhat familiar with from our time at Tottenham in the beta save. And they've also got Nicholas Schuler at the back as well. So it's a good team. But seeing as they did drop points in the first game away from home against Dynamo Moscow, I'm hopeful at home that we can beat these guys and potentially put ourselves into a good position to finish second in this group in today's episode. And the other team that we do take on today is Dynamo Moscow out of Russia, so we're not going to spend too long looking at this club for obvious reasons, but they are 3.5-star reputation and do play a 5-3-2. No names there that do look overly familiar. They were the 4th seed for this group out of the pots when the draw was made. Hopefully we can do the double over those guys, and they might be in a little bit of trouble. We'll see how they get on against Manchester City in the first game of this match week. In today's episode, currently 6th in the Russian league as well, so struggling just a little bit more than most teams in this group are. But that's our opposition for today's episode, and we'll come back shortly and hopefully get it off to a good start, pick up our first points of this year's Champions League group stage, taking on Leipzig from the Laugardas Villa. And we do have TV coverage for these Champions League games. Here is our lineup. As I said before, just those changes at wing back, with Matthews coming back in off his holiday and Jorge for the suspended. Alejandro Meza there is the Leipzig outfit. A little bit different to what we saw before on the club info page. Might be a little bit weaker, might be resting some of their better players, but hopefully we can pick up some points here at home to start off today's episode. And 10 minutes into this one, we do have the first highlight of the game. It's a corner at the far post there for Leipzig. Nicholas Schuler hits that off the upright, so a good early chance for them there, but it does remain 0-0, and we will get another corner straight off the back of that. They put it yet again to the far post, this time straight at Husavik, so some good chances there from set piece for Leipzig, but it remains 0-0, approaching the 15-minute mark. Up to the 43-minute mark for our next highlight of this game. It is a throw-in for Leipzig, but they are having to play out from the back. They have been forced into an early substitution, Hudson-Odoi on the field, but we do get the ball back here, and it is a ball there from Larson trying to pick out Rubio, but they are able to tidy things up there at the back. Gabriel Madrid there, the left back for Leipzig today, a player I would have been quite keen on signing in the past transfer window, but his wage demands were quite high, so we did not pick him up. Leipzig getting him instead of us, and we ended up getting John Matthews instead for that right back solution, trying to improve on Ian Carlos. It'll be interesting to see how he gets on against us today. That's some poor work at the back from us there, though, and Leipzig are back on the attack. Poku on the edge of the box puts that in for Swedberg, and yet again a header that comes off the upright. We'll see if they get anything else coming from this highlight. Good slide tackle there from Jorge, but Poku was offside. But so far, all the action has been in Leipzig's favour, but it does remain 0-0. Hopefully we can cling on here at least until half-time. Man City doing an absolute number on Dynamo, as you can tell, and behind my head as well. They are 5-0 up just before half-time, so maybe that 6-2 from yesterday's episode is not the worst result, but we are still on the attack here. And it's a nice ball over the top there. Nicholas Zimmerman able to control that, just plays that back for Caviglia. Good 1-2. Can Zimmerman put that in the back of the net, tries to put it top right corner, just over the bar, and just shy of half-time. It does remain 0-0, but we've got yet another highlight. Lots of action happening late here in the first half of our first home game of this year's Champions League. Nicholas Schuler makes his way forward, but it's a poor pass, and Thiago Paulo is able to tidy things up for us and get possession back. And we do play it back for him, start to try and camp ourselves inside the half there of Leipzig, and good short passing. Frederick Larson here with a chance. He'll bury that in the bottom left corner, and almost out of nowhere, because so far most of the action in this half has been in Leipzig's favour, but in injury time we get a few highlights and we open the scoring. It's a good header down that from John Matthews back in the team, and that just allows us to get a few players from our midfield getting in behind their defence there, and in the end Frederick Larson, nice finish into the bottom left corner, and we should be taking a 1-0 lead into half-time here, and that is a good effort considering how even this game has been so far. Stats-wise, very even, but I suppose our XG is actually quite a bit higher than Leipzig, so you can't argue too much with that scoreline. Hopefully, we can build on that in the second half and pick up our first win of this year's Champions League group stage. And 5 minutes into the second half, we have an early free kick. Galkison far post, and Benjamin Rubio gets his head on the end of that. A very unexpected source there for a headed goal. We're actually playing low crosses today because it was suggested by our assistant manager, and Benjamin Rubio is able to get his head on the end of that one at the far post, loop that over the Leipzig goalkeeper, and we are 2-0 up here nice and early in the second half. And considering we didn't really see a highlight in our favour until injury time in that first half, that is a very good score line. It is Matthews just tidying things at the back there up for us after Leipzig did try and get back into this one straight off the back of that goal. They might still have a chance here though from this highlight immediately from the restart, and Kunku tries to play that back for Tellers Magno. It's a really nice diving header that from Thiago Polo Zimmerman. For Larson, can he pick out Rubio? He can't, but Caviglia is through here, but puts it wide. Great chance there to grab a third, but we are now 2-0 up nice and early in the second half. And up to the 63-minute mark now, we are going to make our first substitution. Benjamin Rubio on a yellow card. We do know what happened in that situation in Champions League qualifying last year, and of course to Alejandro Meza yesterday. So despite the fact that we could get him to ease off tackles, we'll take him off for an informed Fabio Mariano coming into this fresh off the back of 4 goals against HK in the league. A very good result there for our rotation team against the team that did finish second. But we have a highlight straight off the back of that substitution, and we are on the attack here off the back of a throw-in inside our own half. We do play it back into our defence, but do keep possession. Thiago Polo to Zimmerman. Can we get something going here? Down the right-hand side, starts to go forward. It's a slide tackle from Jobberslai. He comes off the bench, and Mariano there with a shot. Zimmerman tries to put that away from a tight angle, hits the side netting. It's still 2-0 with about 20 minutes left. And only a few minutes off the back of that most recent highlight is a throw-in here for Leipzig inside the final third. Hopefully we can deal with this, and Caviglia, who we're probably about to take off down to a red heart, did keep the session back for us. It's an interesting slide tackle there, but a good clearance from one of our defenders, Mariano, with a header, which we're not used to seeing from him. But Leipzig on the counter-attack, and Jobberslai with a shot comes off the underside of the crossbar, so very close there to opening the scoring. But off the back of that, we are going to make that substitution. Caviglia coming off for Goffey, just under 18 minutes left, and we do still hold a 2-0 lead. And up to the 77-minute mark now, we're going to make our last substitution. We've got Satole and Zimmerman down to red hearts. I think Satole might be more important in this situation. Try and freshen up our defence instead of our attack with that 2-0 lead for these last 10 minutes. And up to the 89-minute mark here, we do have a goal kick late in this one. We take it short to Prisco, plays this forward to Mariano, doesn't win the header, but Zimmerman does get possession back for us. This could be a very, very nice way to start off today's episode against the Leipzig team, who have been matching us pretty evenly stats-wise in this game. We've slightly been edging things, but they certainly should have got a goal on the board in this game. A few good chances they have had that have come off the woodwork, but so far, just the slice of luck going in our favour today. I think it is fair to say, and we are 2-0 up here late in this one. Zimmerman inside the box, and Madrid brings him down, and I think we're going to get a late penalty here to try and seal this with what would be a very flattering 3-0 scoreline. I think it is fair to say. One thing to note, not quite sure who will take our penalty for this one, because Rubio and Satole are both our best penalty takers, and we've taken them off, so this could be quite interesting. It will be Duplisco, goes down the right-hand side of goal. Bauer makes a save, so I probably should have left one of Rubio or Satole on for that just in case, but hopefully it's not going to come back and bite us here in the remaining 3 minutes of injury time. The highlight does end. Man City are winning 8-1 against Dynamo Moscow. So as I said earlier, maybe that 6-2 result yesterday, not quite as bad as we thought, but that is a good solid win to start today's episode. We pick up a 2-0 win against RB Leipzig, and that puts us hopefully in the box seat to get second at the end of today's episode, especially with that result Man City did pick up there against Dynamo Moscow, and with Leipzig still yet to play Man City in this first half of games in this group. That could be a tough matchup for them off the back of us beating them 2-0 and the result that we did have against those guys in yesterday's episode. But that is a great way to start off today. We move up to second off the back of that win. Leipzig and Dynamo still down on 1 point. Man City absolutely looking like they're going to cakewalk this group, and we'll come back shortly off the back of hopefully a few friendlies that I can schedule against Phil Kerr, keep those guys nice and fit while we also do the same. And we'll get into the second game of today's episode at home again against Dynamo Moscow. And here are the team sheets for the second game of today's episode. Meza back at left back, Jorge drops down to the bench, and also Rosario Renzi comes onto the bench as well. Porstein Arnason has picked up a little niggly injury in our friendlies between that first game and today's one. We have kept ourselves ticking along, not with friendlies against Phil Kerr. Unfortunately, they were unavailable, but with friendlies against 2 MLS teams, we have beaten up on those guys quite nicely. So thank you very much, America, for that one. And we'll get underway here and hopefully end this episode on 6 points as we do take on Dynamo Moscow. And we've had to wait all the way up until the 38-minute mark for our first highlight of this one. It is a corner we try and put in there at the near post, but the ball does fall back there to Caviglia. It's a shot off there. Not too sure who that was, but a good save there from the Moscow goalkeeper. Keeps it at 0-0 just after the 40-minute mark. And not too long off the back of that first highlight, we were on the attack there again, but that clearance does fall to Duplisco. So far, we have been completely dominant stats-wise, but nothing to show for it, and took a long time for us to get our first highlight in this game. We did switch to low crosses at the 35-minute mark, and Frederick Larsson gets the first chance of this game and yet again opens the scoring for us. A lot of help there from the underside of the crossbar, but it just sneaks its way over the line, and right before half-time yet again, we do get a 1-0 lead here at the Laugardars Vola. Nice short passing. Rubio slots him through, just chips the goalkeeper, and just the right angle off the crossbar there to give us that 1-0 lead heading into half-time. Good to see as well. Man City are pumping RB Leipzig just shy of half-time, so that means we could get ourselves into a very, very strong position to get out of this group in tomorrow's episode, should things remain the way that they are at the moment. But that is a good half from us. Probably should have more than that one goal, but we do not mind 1-0 up here as we're about to kick off the second half of this game against Dynamo Moscow. And an early highlight here in the second half, 48 minutes gone, and we are still on the attack. Dynamo Moscow yet to really fire a shot in this one so far. I thought Rubio might have a chance there at Zimmerman. Tight angle, and I think the goalkeeper's just got a touch on that to put that on the upright. So a great chance for us there to grab our cushion goal, but it does remain 1-0 just after the 50-minute mark, but not too long off the back of that. We do have a free kick, and I do believe Benjamin Rubio is going to try and put this one top left corner, but it does go over the bar all over Moscow, but still 1-0 up early on here in the second half. And up to the 71-minute mark here, we are on the attack yet again. We do get possession back there after nearly losing it, and hopefully we can keep this going. Interesting to see behind my head, Leipzig have grabbed 2 goals back early in the second half, so that one might not be all she wrote just yet, as we did suspect at half-time, but we get something going here down our right-hand side. Matthews, can that leprechaun luck continue here at Volsungur? Zimmerman tries to put that top left corner just over the bar, still 1-0 inside the last 20 minutes of this one. And up to the 76-minute mark now, Moscow do have some possession in this one as they do look to play out from the back, but a good foot in there by Zimmerman. Can he square this? For Rubio takes on the shot from a tight angle straight at him. Not too threatening that one, but we are going to make a substitution here. Rubio is down to a red heart Mariano to come on for him for these last 14 minutes. And very shortly off the back of that first substitution, we are going to make our last 2. We've got 2 midfielders here down to red heart, still only holding a 1-0 lead. So Renzi will come on for Galtason, and it will be Goffey coming on for Satole. Still 1-0 up with 10 minutes left. And we are entering injury time of this one, still only holding a 1-0 lead. If anything, the scorelines potentially in today's episode probably should be flipped for the stats that did eventuate from those games, but we do not mind. We do take a 1-0 win, and in the end we get exactly what we wanted out of this 100th episode. 2 wins from 2, and we are going to end up on 6 points, and hopefully both Moscow and Leipzig will still be on 1 point, and we potentially could secure qualification for the Champions League knockouts in tomorrow's episode, which would be very nice with games still remaining against both Man City and Leipzig. And indeed, that is the case because Manchester City just held on there for a 3-2 win against Leipzig. So we have a very good episode today, going from 0 points to 6 points off the back of 2 wins. And if we can win our game in tomorrow's episode with City taking on Leipzig, if we can beat Moscow in the return leg, we should be able to guarantee that we have Champions League knockout football for the first time in this save. And here is a bit more of a detailed look at how the group does look at the end of today's episode. Also, hopefully you guys can see the scoreline a little bit better than what you might have been able to do before, when my head might have been blocking at RB Leipzig getting 2 second half goals, but can't quite do enough there to overcome Manchester City with that 3-0 halftime lead. As I said, the scorelines in those games that we played, considering the stats, probably should have been flipped around. We certainly should have scored more than that 1 goal there against Dynamo Moscow, but in the end we do not mind because we win both of our games in today's episode. And as I said, with the matchups coming up tomorrow, where we will also have the end of season review coming up off the back of that game, but we take on Moscow away from home, and Man City host Leipzig. You would think on current form, Man City pretty hot favourites to win that one. So if we can win that game against Moscow away from home, we will guarantee ourselves, hopefully, Champions League knockout football for the first time in this save, and that would be very nice before we do take on Man City yet again. And then our last game would be a little bit more of a dead rubber as we take on Leipzig away from home, which might be just a little bit tougher than when we did take them on at home. In today's episode, and before we do wrap things up, we are just going to have a quick check in on how Falkirk are getting on down in the Conference League. They've only played the one game since we checked in on these guys in yesterday's episode. That must have been against Real Sociedad, and unfortunately, away from home, they did suffer a 3-0 defeat, so can't quite back up what they did in the first game of the Conference League, where they picked up a draw at home against Nimes, but they are still above Istanbul Başakşehir, and that will be interesting to see how they get on in that doubleheader against those guys when we check in on that in tomorrow's episode, but still in with a potentially sneaky chance there of getting out of that Group R Falkirk, albeit what we really want them to do is just pick up the odd little coefficient point to help us along for this season, where we do have a little bit of pressure coming up from nations behind us on the coefficient table. But that will do it for today's episode. We end it in second spot in our Champions League group, and if we can win that game tomorrow, actually at a neutral venue, of course, of Dynamo Moscow being Russian, so that could actually play in our favour, that one being played at a neutral venue. But if results go our way, if we do win that game against Moscow, we might qualify for the Champions League knockouts for the first time in this save, and with that being the last game of the season, we will also have our end of season review as well. But if you did enjoy today's episode, 6 points from 6, exactly what we were after, then do remember to go down below, leave a thumbs up on the video, and if you haven't done so already and are enjoying this series here on the channel, also remember to hit that subscribe button and turn that notification bell on as well. But until tomorrow, hopefully we can get out of a Champions League group and into the knockouts for the first time in this save. Thank you very much for watching. Keep on keeping on, and I'll see you then. Cheers.